My name is Rachel. I am 29 years old, and a few weeks ago, my own family looked me in the eye and told me I was too expensive to bring on vacation. It started on a casual evening call. My mom sighed and said, "We're broke. We can't afford to take you on vacation this year." Before I could even process that, my brother laughed through the speaker. That sarcastic laugh he always uses when he wants to sound like he is joking, but he is not. "Just stay home, you'll save us some money," he said. For a second I just froze. I have spent years helping them with bills, loans, and little emergencies, and suddenly I was the extra cost that needed to be cut. I swallowed it, forced a laugh, and said something polite like, "Yeah, sure, no worries, I get it." Because that is what I always do. I told myself they must really be struggling this time, that maybe skipping one family vacation was not a big deal. So I planned a tiny solo trip to New York using my own credit card points, the kind of trip where you count every dollar and pretend it is enough. I thought that was the end of it. Then I got to the airport. Standing in the economy line with my cheap ticket, I heard a familiar laugh behind me. I turned and saw my mom, my brother, and his kids at the first-class check-in, relaxed and smiling like money had never been a problem. The same brother who told me to stay home so I would not cost them anything now had his kids waving first-class boarding passes in the air. And I did not say a word. I just watched. And something inside me finally snapped. 2 weeks after that moment, those smiles were gone and my family was not calling me generous anymore. If you want to know how one broke family vacation turned into the end of me being their personal ATM, stay until the end. Because what happened next is the reason they are not smiling in those vacation pictures anymore. To understand why that phone call and that airport scene hit me so hard, you have to know how my family has always worked. I live in Houston. I have a pretty normal 9-to-5 job as a project coordinator for an energy company, and I pay my bills on time. I am not rich. I still have student loans and a budget spreadsheet, but I am careful. My parents, on the other hand, have lived on the edge of "we're broke" for as long as I can remember. My dad had heart problems a few years ago, so he stopped working early. My mom works part-time as a receptionist at a small dental office out in the suburbs. My older brother Matt is the responsible one in my mom's eyes because he has a wife, 2 kids, and a mortgage in the nice side of Katy. That responsible label is funny when you look at his credit card statements, but my mom never does. In our family, there has always been this unspoken rule. If something goes wrong, Rachel will figure it out. When their electric bill was past due, my mom would call me with that shaky voice and say, "Honey, they're about to shut it off. Can you help just this once?" When Liam wanted to join a soccer league or Ava needed costumes for a school play, my brother would text me, "If you could pitch in a little, it would mean the world. We're tight this month." This month somehow lasted for years. I sent money through Zelle and Venmo so often that my banking app started flagging repeat transfers to the same people. I cut back on eating out, on new clothes, on gym memberships, so I could help family. Every time I tried to save for myself, something urgent would pop up on their end. What made it worse was the way they talked about my life. My mom would say things like, "You're lucky you don't have kids yet. You can always make more money." My brother loved to joke, "You're the free one, no daycare, no school fees, nothing tying you down." Free apparently meant available to pay for everyone else's life. After a while, I stopped even dreaming about big trips. I would scroll through pictures of beaches in Hawaii or cities in Europe and think, maybe someday, when Dad's health is stable, when they're caught up on the mortgage, when the kids are older. There was always a reason to put myself last. Then, a few months ago, my company announced a slow period. No bonus this year, no promotions, just the usual paycheck. It scared me a little, but it also woke me up. I was almost 30 and I had never taken a real vacation for myself. That is when I got the idea. Instead of throwing my extra money into another one of their emergencies, why not do something for all of us? I thought if we went on a simple family vacation together to Florida or somewhere with a beach and a pool, it would finally feel like I was part of the family, not just the backup wallet. So on that casual evening call, before the "we're broke" speech, I actually started with, "Hey, I was thinking, what if we did a family trip? Nothing crazy, a few days. I can help with some of the costs." I expected my mom to at least hesitate, maybe to say, "Let's see what we can do." Instead, the words came out of her mouth so fast it felt rehearsed. "We're broke. We can't afford to take you on vacation." Then Matt laughed and threw in that line about me staying home to save them money, like I was a line item on a spreadsheet they were cutting. In that moment, something small cracked inside me, but I pushed it down. I told myself maybe they really were drowning. I told myself maybe I was overreacting and that a cheap solo trip to New York would be enough. What I did not know yet was that their version of broke and mine were very, very different, and that the next time I saw them, that crack inside me was going to split wide open. A couple of weeks after that call, I was standing in my tiny kitchen, tossing clothes into a small carry-on and convincing myself that New York was all I needed. No fancy resort, no all-inclusive, just a cheap round-trip ticket from Houston to LaGuardia, a friend's couch, and whatever I could cover with credit card points and a bit of savings. I checked in online, saw the word economy on my boarding pass, and shrugged. That was normal for me. Middle seat, no early boarding, no free drinks. I told myself it was fine, that I did not care about first class or beach photos or matching family t-shirts. I Ubered to Bush Intercontinental, rolled my little suitcase inside, and joined the long, slow-moving economy line. It was a typical busy morning, kids crying, people in suits complaining into their phones, the overhead voice calling out boarding groups. I put my headphones around my neck and zoned out, thinking about pizza and Central Park, and maybe a Broadway show if I could find a discount ticket. Then I heard a laugh that made my stomach drop. It was my brother's laugh, that loud, performative sound he uses when he wants everyone around him to know he is having a great time. For a second, I thought I was imagining it. But then I heard my mom say his name, and my whole body went cold. I turned my head, and there they were, not struggling at some self-check in kiosk, not counting crumpled bills at a kiosk for baggage fees. They were at the first-class counter. My mom was leaning casually on a sleek suitcase, wearing a new cardigan I had never seen before, and holding a to-go coffee like she did this every week. My brother stood next to her, talking to the airline agent with that confident tone he uses when he is trying to charm someone. His wife, Brittany, was snapping selfies, tilting her head just right, the kids tucked in close to her hip. Liam and Ava were bouncing with excitement, waving their printed boarding passes like golden tickets. I watched Ava point up to the sign that said first class, and heard her say, "Daddy, does this mean we get the big seats?" My brother grinned and said, "That's right, sweetheart, we're doing this trip right." And my mom, the same woman who had told me, "We're broke, we can't afford to take you," laughed and said, "After everything we've been through, we deserve something nice." I stood there in my wrinkled airport hoodie, clutching my economy boarding pass, and felt my face get hot. There was no sign of stress on them, no trace of the desperate tone my mom uses when she calls me about the power bill. They were relaxed, happy, shining, like a commercial family on TV. For a heartbeat, I actually wondered if I was the crazy one, if maybe their financial situation had magically changed in the last 2 weeks. But then the agent handed them their tickets, directed them to the priority security line, and I saw the destination printed on the tags hanging from their bags. Orlando. They were going to Florida. They were doing the exact kind of family vacation my mom had shut down when I offered to help. My legs started moving on their own, and I turned my back before any of them could glance my way. I could have walked over. I could have said, "Hey, funny seeing you here. I thought you were broke." I could have made a scene, asked them in front of the kids why I was too expensive to bring, but first class was not. Instead, I did nothing. I stayed quiet. I let the line push me toward the regular bag drop while they glided toward the shorter, roped-off lane. On the plane, shoved into a middle seat between a guy who fell asleep with his mouth open and a woman who kept tapping on her laptop, I replayed the scene over and over. My brain tried to bargain with it. Maybe the tickets were a gift. Maybe it was some crazy miles deal. Maybe they had been embarrassed to invite me because they could not pay for my share. But underneath all those excuses was a simple, ugly truth I could not ignore anymore. It was never that they could not afford to include me. It was that they chose not to. For years they had drawn from my account like it was an endless well, and then, when it came time to plan something good, something fun, something they could brag about online, I was the first thing they cut. By the time the plane landed in New York, the crack inside me had turned into a full break. The city was loud and bright, and my friends were excited to see me, but a part of me was somewhere else, still standing in that first-class line, watching my own family act like I was invisible. I did not confront them at the airport. I did not call them from New York to scream or cry. I waited. And when I came back to Houston, the first call my mom made to me gave me the perfect chance to stop being their invisible backup plan for good. When I got back to Houston, the heat hit me the second I stepped out of the airport. But it was nothing compared to what was waiting on my phone. I had not even unpacked when my screen lit up with Mom. Normally, I would let it ring once or twice, brace myself, then pick up. This time, I just stared at it. I could still see her smiling at that first-class counter, saying she deserved something nice. I took a deep breath and answered, "Hey, Mom?" Her voice came through overly bright at first, fake, cheerful. She asked about my trip, if New York was fun and if my flight was okay. I gave short, polite answers. Yes, it was good. Yes, I was tired. We both danced around the real topic like it was some secret we had accidentally shared. Then her tone shifted into the one I knew too well, that soft, shaky voice wrapped in guilt. "Honey, listen, I hate to even bring this up, but things have been so tight since your father's last appointment. The gas bill is overdue, and the mortgage company called again. We're really struggling. Do you think you could help out just this once?" Just this once. I almost laughed. For years, every "just this once" had turned into a habit. I could feel my heart beating faster, not from panic like before, but from anger and something new. Resolve. "Mom," I said quietly, "were you struggling like this when you booked first-class tickets to Orlando?" There was a small silence on the line, like the air got sucked out of both our kitchens at the same time. "What are you talking about?" she asked. Her voice went flat. I did not let her dodge it. "I saw you at the airport," I said. "You, Matt, the kids, Brittany, first-class check-in. Orlando tags on the luggage. 2 weeks after telling me you're broke and can't afford to take me anywhere, you're flying out for a first-class family vacation." She let out a nervous little laugh that did not sound like her normal laugh. "Oh, that. It wasn't what you think. There was this deal with miles and points and, you know, your brother worked really hard this year, and the kids needed something to look forward to after everything with your dad's health. It wasn't like we could afford to take everyone. It was complicated." Her words tumbled over each other, excuses bumping into justifications. I could hear the story forming in real time, built to make me feel guilty for even asking. I did not bite. "What's complicated," I said, "is that you told me we were broke. that you couldn't afford to take me, that I should stay home to save you money. And then I watched you pay for the kind of trip you said didn't exist in the budget. I'm not mad you went on vacation. I'm mad you lied to my face and made me feel like a burden. She went quiet again, then tried a different angle. Rachel, you don't understand. You don't have kids. Your brother has so many responsibilities. We thought you would get it. You're independent. You always bounce back. We knew you'd find a way to travel. We can't do everything. There it was again. The narrative where my life was easy and theirs was impossible. I could feel the old version of me wanting to cave, to say, "It's okay, Mom, I'll help. Just this one more time." Instead, I opened my laptop, pulled up my online banking, and looked at the list of transfers with their names on it, a long line of "just this once" payments. "I do understand," I said, my voice calmer than I felt. "I understand that I have been paying for everything that goes wrong while you tell me there's nothing left when it comes to me. That stops today." "What do you mean?" she asked, sharp now, like she suddenly realized this was not a normal call. "I mean, I'm done sending money," I answered. "No more covering bills, no more emergencies, no more just until next month. I removed my card from your electric account. I turned off the automatic transfers, and I'm not signing on to anything else. You and Matt need to figure out your finances without using me as your backup plan." She sounded offended, almost personally attacked. "How can you say that? We're your family. Your father is sick. Your brother is drowning. You're really going to just watch us struggle?" I closed my eyes, remembering myself squeezed into that middle seat while they walked past the curtain with their kids. "You didn't mind watching me struggle when you told me to stay home and save you money," I said. "I've helped for years. I'm not your bank. If you could afford first class without me, you can afford your own bills without me." She gasped like I had slapped her. "Rachel, that's cruel." "What's cruel," I replied, "is cutting your daughter out of your life whenever it's convenient for your budget, and then calling it love when you need her paycheck." She tried to argue, to cry, to twist it back into a story where I was ungrateful, but I did not move. For the first time in my life, I held the line and did not say, "Fine, I'll send something." After we hung up, my hands were shaking, but not from fear. It felt like I had finally put down a heavy bag I'd been carrying for so long I forgot what my shoulders felt like without it. The next day, my brother called, his name flashing across my screen with a string of missed calls and long texts. And that was when the real fight started. Matt did not bother with small talk. The first time his name flashed on my screen after that call with my mom, it was a missed call. Then another. Then a wall of texts popped up one after another. "Call me back. This is serious. You can't do this to Mom and Dad. Answer your phone, Rachel." I stared at the messages for a long time, the way you stare at an alarm you have heard 1,000 times and are finally ready to ignore. I had already decided I was not going to run to fix whatever mess he was in this time. Still, a part of me knew I needed him to hear me say it out loud, not just through silence. So when he tried FaceTiming me, I let it ring twice, took a breath, and answered. His face filled the screen, jaw tight, eyes narrowed, the kind of angry that comes from fear but refuses to admit it. "What the hell, Rachel?" he snapped before I could even say hello. "Mom is freaking out. She says you're cutting her off? What is wrong with you?" His voice was louder than it needed to be, like volume could bully me back into place. I leaned back on my couch, tucked my free hand under my leg to hide how much it was shaking, and kept my voice steady. "Nothing is wrong with me," I said. "I just told her I'm done paying everyone's bills." He laughed, this sharp, disbelieving sound that made it clear he thought I was being dramatic. "Are you serious right now? Dad's sick. The mortgage is behind. The utilities are past due. You're really going to act like you're some poor starving artist when you know you have money? It was almost funny, hearing him talk like he had ever once asked about my budget or my stress, like he had seen my bank account at 2 in the morning when I was doing math to make things work. I pay my rent. I pay my student loans. I pay my own medical bills, I said slowly. And on top of that, I've been paying your emergencies and theirs for years. That's the money you think I just have lying around. He rolled his eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. You don't have kids, Rachel, he said, the way someone might say, you don't have a clue. You have no idea what real responsibility looks like. Try paying for daycare, school supplies, soccer fees, dentist appointments. You're 30, and all you have to worry about is your stupid gym membership and whatever trip you want to take next. The old version of me would have apologized by now, would have scrambled to prove I understood, would have reminded him of all the times I babysat for free, or sent money so his kids could go on field trips. Instead, I let his words sit for a second. You're right, I said, and his eyebrows shot up. I don't have kids. That's why I'm not responsible for yours. His mouth fell open, shocked, like he could not believe I had actually said it out loud. Wow, he said slowly, shaking his head. You really are selfish. I almost laughed at the irony. Selfish? I repeated. Matt, I watched you take your kids on a first-class vacation to Orlando while Mom was telling me you were broke. You told me staying home would save you money. You cut me out of the fun. You used my money for the boring parts and then called it family. That's not responsibility. That's entitlement. His face flushed red. He immediately went on the defensive, words tumbling over each other. It was miles. Okay? Points. Brittany found a deal. Most of that trip was basically free. I raised an eyebrow. Then why wasn't there room for me? I asked. If it was so free and easy, why did I have to hear, we're broke, we can't afford to take you? He did not have a real answer to that. He shifted his phone, looked away from the camera, blamed the airline, the timing, the kids' school schedule, the fact that I live in the city and they are in the suburbs. Anything but the simple truth that they chose not to include me. You would have made it complicated, he finally snapped. You always make everything about you. We just wanted one stress-free trip for the kids. My chest burned, but I did not let it show in my voice. I didn't even know you were going, I said. You made it very easy to leave me out. I only made it complicated in your head when I stopped being useful. He sighed dramatically, like he was exhausted by having to explain basic things to a difficult child. Then he tried a different tactic, the one that always worked before. Look, he said, adjusting his tone into something that sounded almost reasonable. Whatever misunderstanding you think you saw at the airport, fine. Be mad. But Mom and Dad are about to lose everything if you don't step up. You make more than any of us. You can fix this. There it was, stripped bare. Not, can you help? But you will. Because you always do. In his mind, my income was already spent. My future was already his backup plan. I shook my head. I'm not a safety net, I said. You planned a lifestyle that depends on me bailing you out every time something goes wrong. That was your choice, not mine. I'm choosing something different now. His eyes narrowed. So you're really just going to sit there and watch our parents drown? He said, his voice rising, like if he said it loud enough he could shame me back into line. After everything they've done for you? I thought about everything they had actually done for me, and everything I had quietly done back. No, I said quietly. I'm going to watch you finally learn how to swim without tying a rope around my neck first. He stared at me through the screen, breathing hard, searching my face for the weak spot I used to have. Unbelievable, he muttered. You will regret this. When Dad's health gets worse, when Mom can't handle things, when they really need someone, Don't come crying to me. I almost smiled, not because any of this was funny, but because the idea of me ever relying on him for support was almost absurd. I've never once come crying to you, I replied, but you have no problem calling me whenever a bill shows up with your name on it. That ends now. He cursed under his breath and called me cold, heartless, said I was turning my back on my own blood, that I was letting money ruin the family. I let him get it all out, every guilt trip, every recycled line about real family shows up no matter what. And when he finally paused to breathe, I did something I had never done before in any fight with my family. I ended the call first. I hung up. For a few seconds I just sat there, phone in my hand, listening to the silence. No immediate ringback, no chance for him to bulldoze over what I had said. Just quiet. After that, the messages kept coming. Long paragraphs from my mom about how she never raised me to be so ungrateful, and how one day you will understand when you have kids. Short, angry texts from Matt about how money has changed you, and you'll be sorry when they're gone. I muted the thread. My apartment felt almost painfully quiet without their constant emergencies buzzing in my pocket, but underneath that discomfort was something else. Something I had not felt in a long time. Space. For the first time, my paycheck stayed in my account long enough for me to see what it looked like when my hard work benefited me, not everyone else. I moved some money into a real emergency fund and opened a small separate savings account labeled Future Trip just for me. I cooked at home, drank coffee in my own kitchen instead of rushing out the door to deal with someone else's crisis, walked through my neighborhood in the evenings without my phone pressed to my ear. I started sleeping better, not because my life was suddenly perfect, but because I knew if something went wrong, the money I had would actually be there to help me. I honestly thought drawing that line would be the hardest part, that the worst of the drama was behind me once I survived that call. I thought they would sulk for a while, adjust, maybe learn to stand on their own 2 feet. I had no idea that in just about 2 weeks, the same people who had laughed at the idea of including me on their trip would be facing consequences they could not joke their way out of, and that "we're broke" was about to stop being a manipulation and start becoming their actual reality. About 2 weeks after that fight with Matt, my phone started lighting up again, but this time it didn't look like the usual drip of, "Hey, can you help with this one bill" kind of thing. It started with a short text from my mom. "Call me when you can. It's important." No emojis, no extra exclamation marks, just those words. I stared at it for a while. I had promised myself I would not jump every time they said urgent, because urgent had usually meant we want to scare you into opening your wallet. Still, something about the timing and the way the words sat there made my stomach twist. I took a deep breath, told myself I could listen without fixing, and called. My mom answered on the first ring like she had been sitting with the phone in her hand. She did not even try the fake cheerful voice this time. "Rachel," she said, and I could hear she had been crying for a while, the kind of hoarse, tired crying that leaves you hollow. "The bank sent a final notice. We're in real trouble." For a second, I did not say anything. Silence has become my best shield. I let her keep talking, because when people are desperate, they will tell you the truth without meaning to. "We're 3 months behind on the mortgage," she continued, her words tumbling out fast, like if she said them quickly enough they might hurt less. "Your father's medical bills wiped out our savings, and then with the trip, and the cards, and everything, they're threatening foreclosure. If we don't come up with the money, we could lose the house." There it was. Not some random copay, not a single overdue bill. The whole house. The thing they had always said they were protecting for the family, the same house I grew up in, suddenly hanging by a thread. Old me would have panicked, grabbed a notebook, asked for exact numbers and dates, pulled up my banking app, started doing math in my head, already moving my dreams around to make room for their crisis. This time, I asked a different question. "When did you miss the first payment?" I said. She hesitated just long enough to answer the question without words, then finally admitted, "We've been a little behind for a while. We were juggling things, shifting cards, waiting on your brother's commission checks, hoping your father's insurance would reimburse more. We thought we could catch up." She did not say the other part out loud, but I heard it anyway, like a second voice underneath hers. "We thought you would break and bail us out again, like you always do." "And you still went to Orlando," I said quietly. "You still chose a first-class vacation while your house was already 3 payments behind." Her grief snapped into anger so fast it was like flipping a switch. "We needed that trip," she shot back. "Your father was depressed. The kids were disappointed. Your brother was working nonstop. We thought if we just had one good week, we could come back and deal with everything. How are we supposed to know it would get this bad this fast?" I almost said, "Because you've been ignoring it for years." But I bit my tongue. Instead, I let her hear the exhaustion in my voice. "Mom, this didn't happen in 2 weeks. This is not about me saying no for the first time. This is about years of spending money you didn't have and counting on me to plug the holes." She started crying harder, asking how I could be so cold, reminding me how my dad built that house with his own hands, how many Christmases and birthdays happened under that roof, how she rocked me to sleep in that living room when I was sick. Every memory was a hook she tried to throw into me, hoping one would catch and drag me back into my old role. "If you don't help us," she said, "we could lose everything. Please, Rachel. You're the only one who can fix this." That sentence used to feel like a compliment, like a badge of honor. Now it felt like a trap. I closed my eyes and pictured my own apartment, the one I paid for by getting up every morning, going to a job I did not always love, managing my own stress without handing it to anyone else. No one else helped me keep my lights on. No one else made sure my rent cleared. "Mom," I said slowly, "I understand how serious this is. I do. But your mortgage is not my responsibility. It never was. I've given you thousands over the years. I can't fix this for you. You and Matt need to talk to the bank. Refinance. Sell. Downsize. Do whatever people do when they've been living beyond their means. But I am not going to drain my future to cover your past choices." She called me ungrateful again, said she could not believe she raised a daughter who would abandon her family when they need her most. She said if my father's health got worse, it would be on my conscience. I told her I loved her, that I wished things were different, but my answer was still no. After we hung up, my hands were shaking again, but there was a different feeling underneath the shaking now. It was grief. Yes, for the house, for the version of my family I used to believe in. But there was also relief. The rope between us had finally stopped pulling me under with them. Instead of spiraling, I did something small and practical. I opened my banking app and looked at my accounts. For the first time in years, the numbers reflected only my decisions, my bills, my savings, my future. No secret obligations hidden under the label family. Over the next few days, I started hearing pieces of what was happening from other people, because when your family drama spills over, it never stays contained. A cousin mentioned that Matt had taken on extra showings and side jobs, driving all over the city to try to pull in more commission, but the market was slow, and he was already behind. A mutual friend told me Brittany had been venting on social media, posting long captions about how people turn their backs on you when times get tough, under photos of half-packed boxes and takeout containers. In one picture, they had clearly sold or moved half their furniture. The living room I recognized from family gatherings looked bare. In the background of a short video, I saw Liam and Ava sitting on the floor, not smiling, surrounded by cardboard. No matching shirts, no Mickey ears, no first-class glow. Just two kids whose parents had spent years pretending consequences did not apply to them, now watching their world shrink. Curious in a way that hurt, I clicked through more of Brittany's posts. There were complaints about having to sell their SUV and go down to one older car. Comments about canceling the kids' soccer and dance because we have to focus on essentials now. A story about how they had to call the internet company to get on a cheaper plan and cut streaming services. One line stuck with me: "We busted our butts and got judged for one nice trip." She didn't say my name, but I did not need a tag to know who she meant. Reading that, I felt the familiar wave of guilt try to rise, that old reflex that said, "Look, they're struggling. Just help a little so the kids don't suffer." But then that mental image of the airport came back so clearly I could almost smell the coffee again, the first-class counter, the jokes about deserving something nice, Matt's voice telling me to stay home to save them money, my mom nodding along, the way they had walked past me without even knowing I was standing a few yards away. For a long time, I had believed that if I ever stopped helping, they would hate me forever, and I would not be able to stand it. Maybe they did hate me a little right then. Maybe they sat in their half-packed living room and blamed me for every bad decision they ever made. But sitting in my small apartment, with my own bills paid and my own plans slowly taking shape, I realized something I should have understood a long time ago. I did not create their situation. I just stopped cushioning it. The reality they were facing now was not some new punishment I had imposed. It was the same reality I had been living under quietly for years, making careful choices and sacrifices so my rent was paid and my lights stayed on. The only difference was that they were finally feeling what happens when "we're broke" stops working as a magic spell and starts being a consequence. And this time, for the first time, I was not going to be the one who paid the bill to make it go away. The thing about consequences is, they do not show up all at once. They drip in slowly until suddenly everything is soaked. Over the next few months, I watched from a distance as the life my family had built on excuses and my bank account started to fall apart. My parents ended up having to sell the house I grew up in. They did not lose it overnight in some dramatic foreclosure scene, but the bank made it clear there were no more extensions, no more grace. A realtor sign went up on the front lawn, and for the first time in my life, my mom could not spin it as anything but what it was: the result of years of choices catching up. They downsized to a small rental in a less shiny neighborhood, the kind of place she used to turn her nose up at when we drove by. Matt and Brittany sold their SUV and moved out of their nice house in Katy into a smaller townhome. The kids had to switch schools. Soccer and dance and all the extras disappeared from their schedule. The social media posts changed too. No more airport selfies with "we deserve this" captions. Just occasional pictures of takeout on the couch and vague quotes about hard times showing you who really cares, clearly aimed at me. Family members tried to guilt me into stepping in. An aunt called to say, "They're going through so much. Couldn't you just help a little?" I gave everyone the same answer. I did help. For years. They chose not to change. I'm choosing not to go down with them. Some people understood, some didn't. But for the first time, I realized their opinion of me did not pay my bills or build my future. While they were downsizing, I was, quietly, building. I kept my boundaries and, funny enough, my finances stabilized. Without constant emergencies, my credit card balance went down. My savings went up. I took a weekend trip, fully paid in cash, no guilt attached. At work, without the emotional exhaustion of playing family savior, I had more energy. My boss noticed. I got promoted to a bigger role with better pay. One evening, sitting in my little apartment with my promotion email open and a confirmation for a future trip to Europe sitting in my inbox, I realized something simple and painful and freeing all at once. I had spent years acting like my value to my family was tied to how quickly I could fix their messes. Once I stopped fixing them, they treated me like I had disappeared. But the truth was, I did not vanish. I just stopped existing in the version of the story where I was the unpaid supporting character in their drama. I wrote a new one where I was the main character in my own life. Do I feel sad that my parents lost the house? Yes. Do I wish things had gone differently? Absolutely. I would have helped them gladly if they had been honest with me, if they had included me because they loved me, not excluded me until they needed my money again. That is the line for me now. Family, to me, is not people who share your last name and treat your income like a shared account. Family is people who see your humanity, who respect your limits, who do not only call when they want something. If you are listening to this and you feel like the walking ATM of your family, like you only matter when you are swiping your card or wiring a transfer, hear this. Saying no does not make you a bad daughter, son, sister, or brother. It makes you a person with a right to your own life. The people who truly love you might be hurt, might be confused, but they will adjust. The ones who only loved what you could give them will fall away, and that will hurt, but it will also show you the truth. My mom once told me, "We're broke. We can't afford to take you on vacation." What she did not realize was that the real thing we could not afford was the way they treated me. I stopped paying that price. And because of that, for the first time in a long time, I am finally living a life I do not have to apologize for, to them or to myself.